What is up, everyone? I am here in Horntie Studios trying to get this video out quickly. I got a lot going on here today, but I ran a poll on the community tab here on the channel to see what you guys thought and whether or not I should do this video, and 83% of you said I should. So you asked and I am delivering. So here we go. Won't be a long video, definitely under the 666 seconds mark. Now, I watched most of the hearing, but I have to admit it was very boring. Lots of legal semantics, and to me it was kind of the classic let's have a meeting about the meeting kind of nonsense. But there were some interesting things to take away from it, to say the least. And I just wish they would have spoken more about the case and less about the meeting about the meeting. Now, one of the first things that stood out to me was Ann Taylor once again, Bryan Kohberger's public defender. She was defiant, talked about the delays of the prosecution, which of course most of us here know all too well. Of course, the state pushed back, which was pretty funny because Ann pointed out how they had a March deadline for some discovery and the state still not has produced it. So, just ridiculous. Bill Thompson, of course, got testy once again. And the idea that Bill and company want us to, that they want to make the defense out as the problem is really a joke. They accuse them of not getting stuff to the prosecution when it appears to be the other way around. Ann Taylor made it a point, though, to state that Bill Thompson claiming that they had 95% of the discovery was just flat out wrong. So this is hypocritical at best and straight up lying and deceit at its worst. I mean, more than 18 months into it, they should have everything by now. This is ridiculous. They also discussed the judge signing a subpoena for the FBI to turn stuff over. I mean, they're doing this now? I mean, there's another example of Bill Thompson just dragging his feet here. No wonder, they don't have anything. So now we're trying to hurry up and get this going on. It's like a hurry up and wait game. And from my time in the Army many moons ago, I know how that game is played. Now, of course, Bill Thompson and company arguing about the upcoming May 14th hearing, and they're wanting it to be closed to the public. To this, Ann Taylor once again rose up and let him have it, which was great. She accused the prosecution of denying Bryan Kohberger his Sixth Amendment right to not only have a quick trial, but a public trial. She argued that the hearing should be part of the public access. She said the public has an interest to see what's going on here. That term transparency, but we know that's something in Latah County just doesn't seem to exist in their dictionary. Now, she mentioned that Bryan Kohberger had been vilified in the media for the last 18 months and how this is making it worse and more difficult for him to get any sort of fair trial. I mean, go browse the comments to any News Nation video about this topic or Nancy Grace, and you'll see what I mean. At least 90% of them want to hang him high before this trial even starts. It's unbelievable. Now, Ann Taylor was once again firm in stating that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I mean, she said it more than once, and she didn't say not guilty. She said Bryan is innocent. Now, that's a bold statement to make, and she would have to be insane to state that in an open hearing if she knew that the state had some legit, solid evidence against him. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but to me, that just wouldn't make any sense. It would tarnish her career, probably make her have to retire a little earlier than maybe she planned, which would be a shame because she really does seem to be a good public defender. And from what I've heard, that's a rare thing due to their inexperience and heavy workload. Now, the fireworks were just really getting started between Bill Thompson and Ann Taylor when old Judge stepped in to break it up, kind of like the big brother stepping in more ways than one. He should have let Ann tear into him a little bit. I mean, Bill Thompson is like this spoiled, rich brat who doesn't get his way. And if this case is so strong, then I doubt he would continually make a complete ass of himself in these hearings. No wonder he wants them behind closed doors. But it's obvious that this judge has a bias for the prosecution. Now, from watching the attorney Scott Reich on the Crime Talk channel, that's a pretty standard thing for the judge to side with the prosecution to a degree. But this is just pathetically obvious. Another thing that I observed was this, again, with the stupid grin on the judge's face while all this is going on, like he's in on some sort of inside joke, and who knows, maybe he is. He seems very clueless to me, doesn't seem to get the firm grasp on what's going on. I think he kind of basks in the notoriety and, that everybody's watching him, for once in his career. I'm sure being out there in Latah County, Idaho, you probably weren't getting a whole lot of media attention. But I really question what kind of courtroom is going to be going on in this trial. I mean, I've compared Judge to Judge Ito in that O.J. Simpson train wreck. So let's see how this one turns out. Now, another thing, and probably the most intriguing nugget that we found in this hearing, was they brought up a federal grand jury that didn't return an indictment. Now, that's the first we've heard about a federal grand jury in this case that I'm aware of. Is this the Pennsylvania grand jury that Bryan Kohberger's parents were required to testify in after Bryan's arrest? Ironically, that roughly coincides with the discovery of a 45-year-old woman, Dana Smithers, who was missing, but her decomposed remains were found there in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, which is about the same area where Bryan's family is from, which is obviously very intriguing, but they didn't return an indictment, so they apparently didn't have enough evidence to proceed any further, and that's all we've really heard about it until yesterday. And again, I don't know if this is the same thing, I'm just wondering if it is. Because if they had the goods on Bryan Kohberger, we would have been hearing all about that. Now, I saw a video from my good friend A.R. Hayes from A Convict's Thoughts, and I'll link to it in the description below. It was really good, but he mentioned this grand jury. He also brought up the name Brent Kopacka, which we know Brent and Bryan lived less than an hour drive from each other when they lived in Pennsylvania. When Bryan was at DeSales University, he was even closer to Brent Kopacka. So did those two know each other? I did a True Crime Deep Cuts on the Brent Kopacka story, and I think if you haven't watched it, you might enjoy that. Check that out. Interviewed a retired soldier with PTSD to help understand it. So it's a good episode, but we talked about this on there. And we know that Dana went missing about a month before Bryan moved to Pullman. And then Brent Kopacka was apparently just a month behind him there that summer in 2022. So it does make you wonder, right? Now, I've done videos about the possible link between these two, and I really don't know. I mean, there's certainly some things that make you wonder. The fact that they lived close to each other in Pennsylvania and then moved 2,500 miles west to be in the same town, only a couple miles from each other as far as I know. But the body of Dana was found about a year after she disappeared. No cause of death that I saw was released. But I wonder if the Kohbergers had to testify to help explain maybe a connection between Brent and Bryan. You know, it's an interesting twist in this Idaho 4 case when you think about the feds being involved much more than what we may have thought. So does this mean that the feds might step in and just take this whole mess completely over and out of Latah County? I mean, who knows? But, you know, federal trials are not televised, and we'll probably even get less information about this then than we are now. So I don't know what to think about that. But it's too bad we won't be able to watch or listen to that May 14th hearing because the judge is going to keep it closed and, of course, sided with the prosecution because the defense wanted them all open. So I guess not, but we'll see how things progress here. We'll keep an eye on it, of course. Now, I'm working on a couple of videos for this weekend. You're going to get one tomorrow, that's Saturday, and then you'll get one Sunday, both in the morning. And don't miss, though, my next live. It's going to be a good one this Sunday, and that's May 5th, and that's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central. And I'm going to be talking about Idaho 4, going to be talking about this hearing, going to be talking about that video I put out about that radical controversial theory about the victims potentially being alive, which is really out there, and I don't agree with it necessarily, but I thought it was an interesting premise, and I think it exposes things about this case maybe we hadn't thought of before. That was my only reason for doing it, but I got a lot of really good comments about it. And apparently a lot of you kind of think that, you know, could bear some weight. So we'll talk all about it. And I'm going to have the guy, the sub to this channel, Russ Moore, who was the one that suggested the topic to me. So he's going to be on, maybe not for the whole live, but at least some of it. So it's going to be a good one. So don't miss that. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time and hope to see you in the live.